we're just going to talk tonight about what we think the culture of the nation is going to be post this election. So whether Trump wins or whether Kamala wins, what we think the culture is going to be like. And also after that, we're going to talk about Amendment 4. And as we're recording right now, we're close to a decision on Amendment 4. We think that we're going to have a victory, but we're going to have to check that a little bit later. So, Nora, we sit here tonight and we're going to talk first about the culture in the country when it comes to who's going to win the election. What do you think the culture in the country will be like if Trump wins versus if Kamala wins?
So I was curious because last time that Trump won the election, you had the huge not my president kind of rallies that kind of turned into the Women's March that now they have every year that has turned into a pro-abortion rally, which is really interesting, like a cultural phenomenon on how him winning just sparked such an outrage and then has formed this now annual abortion rally that didn't exist prior to this. And so I think definitely if he wins, there's going to be more outrage again. But I think the country also has realized that he maybe wasn't as evil or awful as they thought he was. And there's definitely a more like temperate climate towards it. But we're still in a very divided, very high stakes state. In regards to abortion specifically, he has gone more central and more wishy-washy on his stance, which the pro-life movement is not thrilled about. He specifically said that he would protect women's reproductive rights, meaning their right to have abortions, and not pass any federal ban, let alone, or even more so, that he would veto one if it were to come up through the House of Representatives. So I think that'll maybe make it less of an like extreme if he wins, but also there's such media poisoning of who he is as a person, and I don't know if the left even knows that abortion isn't really on the ballot this election. Neither side's taking away the right to have an abortion, even though it's really being phrased and pushed that way still.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. It's interesting to see how they think that this issue is extremely important. It's so important that they need to vote against somebody who not only isn't pro-life enough, but it's kind of pro-abortion. But you're right, the media poisoning of the whole system, I think, is where we have to look at, because I think that the general public just doesn't know what is on the ballot.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and like as we're talking, most people have already voted,
Yeah,
especially on the East Coast. I think
of course. Yeah.
there's a few more hours left on the farthest time zone in Alaska, but that's about it.
Mhm.
But kind of, yeah, bracing for what is the news in the world going to look like tomorrow,
Mhm.
depending on who wins.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the biggest difference here is that we have a candidate in Trump who is not pro-life enough. It's not what we want, right? But he is, we talked about this earlier, like God uses imperfect people in certain circumstances. And at this point, I think that we have to look at it in that way, because he's somebody who's obviously imperfect. He's not pro-life enough, but on the other side, we face somebody who is not only pro-abortion, but just anti-family, completely on the opposite side of, what it means to be a Christian. So I think that's kind of what we have to look at in this election. And like we said, everybody's already voted already by the time they're going to be seeing this. But I think that it'll be interesting to see what happens later tonight and who wins, because our nation is really deciding on, do we want somebody who is, yeah, not perfect, even for us conservatives, but do we want to choose him, or do we want to choose somebody who's like just all the way on the other side of the spectrum?
Yeah, because he really is leaving it where it is up to the states.
Mhm.
And while there's some hypocriticism in that, where state lines are now defining who has worth and who doesn't, where you can have
Exactly.
somebody in California able to have abortions all the way through 9 months. And some of it, there's even concern with how the laws are phrased, that it could be even up to the next, I think it was 14 days or 28 days afterwards, where you don't have to provide life-saving care um, to the fetus because of the word they use for the developmental stage of the baby.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and so like you have that on one instance or one state line, and then over here in Florida, you could have abortion outlawed at 15 weeks or way earlier, and then the 9 months is just unimaginable.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, obviously, there's a lot of like very obvious moral and logical flaws in that, but it also is enlightening or not enlightening, inspiring, I think, for the pro-life movement of there really is a local and a direct call to action when it is the states that are deciding.
Yeah.
Sometimes a national ban can seem out of reach or overwhelming. Like, how on earth are we going to convince America to outlaw abortion? That's just an
Mhm.
impossible goal. But convincing your state to outlaw abortion, or at least your county or things like that, to create sanctuary cities where abortion is completely banned. Um, there's kind of the movement that Students for Life is running of the city by city, county by county, like we will make America pro-life, where abortion's not only illegal but unthinkable.
Yeah.
And maybe if Trump wins and he's not going to do this national ban and that's just off the table, it really will light a fire underneath us to go out into our communities and to have those hard conversations and to bother our legislature locally to make those laws.
No, yeah, I mean, I saw a post the other day that basically said like I'm voting this woman was voting for Trump and she said in the post, I'm voting for time, for more, I don't know if you saw it, but voting for more time. It's not the best candidate we could have. But the problem is if we vote for Kamala or if we don't vote and allow Kamala to win, we're voting for a culture of death that's going to be prominent in the United States. And so let's kind of transition a little bit into the statewide amendments that are going on right now in the U.S. And there's 10 different states. I'm going to check the
Yeah,
updates. Let's look live right now, and we're going to see where it's at. So right now we're at 9 o'clock Eastern time, and on Amendment 4, which is and we've talked about this so many times on the CEC for Life podcast, but basically, if Amendment 4 passes in Florida, we go from being one of the most pro-life states to one of the most pro-abortion states. And right now we are at 90.6% in Florida, and we are at 57 to 43% still.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes, it is mixing. And I think Florida has a good position where it's not a swing state by any means, but it is an increasingly, I don't know, it feels like it's kind of maybe on the edge of one, is
Mhm.
what they were talking about it a little bit this election. Um, and to kind of show the precedent that even in a tight race and even in a tight polling, it still is pro-life, and maybe give the courage for other states that aren't extremely conservative or like so heavily pro-life to
Mhm.
still propose pro-life amendments, and hope that they'll have the support or at least deter people from proposing more pro-choice amendments.
Yeah, I mean, at least in Florida, I mean, you got to think about it. They proposed the most pro-abortion amendment they possibly could, because even though they phrased it in a way that was very deceitful, it really was abortion through all 9 months for any reason. And so the fact that we're able to stop this amendment is very encouraging.
But I will say, when I was in Jacksonville, I was seeing so many vote no signs stapled on telephone poles above overpasses. I think for our limited means, the vote no on 4.com, they really did a good job trying to get it out.
They did. And, like you said, I've seen so many vote no on 4 signs, and I've seen very few vote yes on 4. I've seen more vote yes on 4 signs at the abortion clinic in Jacksonville than I have in like just everywhere else. And
Mhm.
so, in terms of like the boots on the ground type of activism, we have a really good base. But in terms of the money and the funding, we do need to do a little bit better on that. They got us beat because they have Planned Parenthood, they have government funding and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
But
because abortion's a for-profit industry, whereas pregnancy resources are naturally charity, like you're giving stuff away with no return and no
exactly.
expectation. And
Yeah.
so, of course, we're going to always be like losing our funds as opposed to building them up because we're not making money off of women's unfortunate circumstances.
But I think that at the end of the day, we just need to find a way to have a little bit more help in terms of promotion, in terms of the funding. And I think that we can because I do believe that if you just walk up to somebody on the street one day and ask them, hey, do you think that this is okay? And show them a live action video, they're going to say no.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been proven time and time again. And that kind of circles back to the people that are watching this video, that even if you don't have the financial means to donate to massive ad campaigns for the pro-life movement,
Yeah.
you can share things on social media and it is free. And you might have a few people unfollow you or comment, but it's good to build your courage in engaging in those hard conversations with friends and to be unashamedly pro-life. And so sharing things, especially from organizations like Live Action and Students for Life, Let Them Live's another great one, that they always are producing really amazing pro-life content, that you can share it and we can win the culture war for the newer generation coming up.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that we just got to keep fighting. And you know what? I mean, we'll look one more time at the
Speaking of that,
results.
I'm gonna grab my baby. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right, Nora, I think we won.
Oh, wonderful.
Yep, it says
Officially called?
yep, on Fox News. It's like they have an X, a red X on it. So I think we're good. I think we won on Amendment 4. So it's 91% reporting and it's going more and more in our direction.
Wonderful. Praise the Lord.
So in Florida, we have successfully defeated for the first time in 17. Hopefully we have more than one, but today we have 10 of them, and we've had 7 before. Since Roe versus Wade will be the first one, though, to defeat the pro-abortion amendment. So that's super exciting. We have a huge victory in the pro-life movement.
Well, amazing.
Yeah,
We'll take our wins as we have them. Thank you so much for
definitely.
tonight. Yeah.
All righty. Well, I think we're going to wrap up for the night, but yeah, I mean, I'm super excited. We're all super excited to have this victory in Florida. And, everybody, if you see this before the election ends tonight, just be praying that we win in the country. But we're super excited about Amendment 4. So,
Yes.
all right. All
And
right.
don't stop trying to change the culture, no matter what the president says or does, is that you can
Definitely.
still change hearts and you can still save lives, even if it's one or two. I know both of us have been in situations where we seen that there is now a person alive today that wouldn't have been if we weren't outside praying or at certain events.